Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I hope you all are fine and you are doing well in your life. May Allah bless all of us, may Allah accept our prayers, and may Allah give us what we want in our life. Today in this video, I want to share some miracle stories, some motivational stories, so that we all listen and we all get benefit from it. And we start doing zikar, askar, amal in better way. Today in this video, I want to share miracle stories, experiences and benefits of reciting Muhammad Ur Rasoolullah. A person sent a letter to Allama Sahab and told the story. He wrote in the letter, it was the time when India hadn't been divided. That hermit used to show strange tricks and was so famous. Princes and kings and queens and lords used to visit him and used to take advantages of his wonders and tricks. He had such types of wonders that he used to walk on flowing water without getting his feet wet. He used to crush iron by touching as if he had crushed a stone of clay. And he used to crush two stones by rubbing them in his palm. If he used to gaze a bird for a while, the bird used to fall down and used to start fluttering. If he used to look at animal, the animal used to start fluttering. Many times, so his miracles amazed everyone. He further wrote that whether those were in his eyes or has magic in his eyes, that whatever he did, it was amazed everyone. Allah had given him excellence and magnificence. People had different views about him. Somebody used to say that he had magic, and somebody said that he has some blessings, some tricks. And somebody said he had spent 11 years in a historic and deep cave, etc. Well, when people used to ask him, he didn't used to reply properly and used to stay quiet. As per my grandfather had affection with his mysterious things, so my grandfather started living with him. My grandfather started to serve that hermit. He used to live with him day and night to serve him. He used to clean his threshold and used to bring water and cook food for him. Even he used to serve his guest, and my grandfather continued served him. Suddenly one day the hermit said, "Now I am bored of this country and want to move from here. So let me go." My grandfather was young and hermit was old, but his affection was too much. My grandfather loved him too much with that hermit that he said that he would also go with him. Wherever the hermit would go, I would go with you. So my grandfather came home and told my grandmother that he would come back after a few days, and went with that hermit as his disciple and left grandmother and offspring weeping behind. Weeks passed, months passed, years passed, but grandfather did not come back. My grandmother wept a lot and considered him as dead, or murdered, or kidnapped, because there was no news about him. After 21 years, grandmother's door was knocked. She asked who was at the door. My grandfather told his name, but my grandmother couldn't believe and didn't open the door. So some strangers gathered at the door and they recognized my grandfather. When my grandfather knocked the door loudly, some neighbor came and some people recognized him. In this way, the door was opened. The babies had grown up. Offspring was young. Offspring did not recognize their father. Nobody recognized my grandfather. Even the children were young now and they did not recognize their father. But my grandmother recognized him and welcomed him. The husband's face was like that. His mustaches were long, beard was lengthy, ears were long and dispersed, dressed like hermits, and he had a stick and a bowl in his hands. My grandmother thought that my grandfather had turned to Hindu. Further he wrote When my grandfather arrived, there was a time of Asr prayer. After a while, prayer was called, and in those days, loudspeakers were not available. Muazzin used to say azan loudly. My grandfather turned to have ablution. My grandmother was surprised and asked him gently, "Oh, father of my son, are you Muslim?" Grandfather surprised and said, "I am many times a stronger Muslim than I was at the time when I left you behind." He offered prayer in the mosque and after that kept on reciting different amal zikar on his tasbih. When night came to its end, he got up, had ablution, performed the Tahajjud prayer, and started to count beads on wooden beads and kept doing zikr in his tasbih. He kept on reciting till Fajr and then performed Fajr prayer. At that time, grandmother got worried to think that man was not able to earn. How would be the circumstances in future? Now offspring was young and it was a time for their marriage. The grandmother nourished their children by adopting ordinary professions like sewing blankets, clothes, and different articles on which she received money and used to spend on house. One of her sons had a job and was helpful to run the domestic system. After a few days, grandmother asked grandfather that how the things would happen in future. We don't have so much money. So my grandfather replied, "May God bless you. Don't worry, everything would be fine." Whenever grandmother used to talk on this matter, his reply was the same. So one day my grandmother said, "Neither did I ask you the circumstances of 21 years, nor you told yourself. Tell me that what happened when you went from here." The grandfather sighed and started his story in gentle voice while looking at the sky. "Mr. Alama, I'm writing you the story in a short." The man wrote this story and said, "I got in love with that hermit. I was surprised by watching the excellence and wonders of that hermit. I had seen many other things, but once I got surprised when I took the hermit to my father's grave. I had been grown up in the hands of my father. He died when he was young. I had full understanding with my father, and I remembered his habits, his temperaments and voice. I asked him about my father. 'Can I meet my father?' Hermit replied by smiling. 'It's not difficult.' He recited something on his hand, and while he was reciting, after a while my father said salam to me. He greeted me. I was amazed to listen the same accent, same voice of my father. I asked him, 'Father, how are you?' My father replied, 'I was not in a good condition because I hadn't worshipped a lot. I did not have good deeds. After death, I was suffering because I was lazy in doing good deeds and cleanliness, but your affection with hermit saved me.' I was amazed to listen that it was due to my affection with the hermit. I asked my father that how did my affection with hermit saved you? He replied, 'It was due to the commendation that hermit had asked you to recite Muhammad Ur Rasoolullah. As you kept on reciting this word Muhammad Ur Rasoolullah, the second part of Kalma, and I was given peace in my grave, and when you crossed the count of millions, Allah Almighty forgave me. Just because of recitation of Muhammad Ur Rasoolullah, Allah forgave me and sent me in paradise in front of me, and Allah has blessed me with these bounties every time I have grapes and other fruits, honey, beer, sweet water, and cold and hot waterfalls, just because of your recitation of Muhammad Ur Rasoolullah. You kept reciting Muhammad Ur Rasoolullah in the world, and I was getting benefit in heaven. I was talking to my father as if he was in front of me. I was feeling his body movement, the voice of his clothes flapping, even I was listening the voice of his breath. I asked my father that I'm feeling your presence, but I can't see you. My father replied by smiling, 'Son, I have left the world where I could be seen.' After a while, I said salam, greeted to my father. I raised my hand for shaking. I felt I felt the rustling of his hand as both hands of my father came in my hand. Tears came out from my eyes. Those were the tears of the memories of my father, tears of separation of father, and the tears of the surprising place. I was amazed and stunned. When all this was over, I saw the smiling face of Hermit. He asked, "Are you happy?" I replied, "Yes, very happy." This event made me the follower, lover, and slave of the hermit. I kept on serving him madly. When he left this place, I also went with him. We traveled street by street, and people used to be amazed by seeing the wonders of Hermit. Hermit used to offer prayers hidden. He used to keep fast, not only in Ramzan, but other than Ramzan. Even he used to perform the Hajjat prayer. I used to follow him. He used to take a lot care of neatness and cleanliness. He used to avoid himself from sins and forbidden things, and also used to keep me away from these things. Apparently, he was a Hindu hermit, but internally he was a great saint. Even he was on higher position than saint. So I kept reciting Muhammad Ur Rasoolullah and I kept traveling with him. I traveled with him for many years. The commendation what he had told me, I used to recite that all the day, used to serve him. I kept reciting Muhammad Ur Rasoolullah with every moment of my life. By the blessing of that commendation, of that word Muhammad Ur Rasoolullah, I used to get food, good accommodation, and peaceful sleep. Even I didn't get a thought about home. Kings used to serve us, and lords used to respect us. Every man used to serve us. Hermit advised me only one thing: don't steal anything, don't save anything, use the things which is available. We will get tomorrow by the blessing of this tasbih, by the blessing of this word which we recite, Muhammad Ur Rasoolullah. And the same used to happen. We used to recite and think about the thing which we need, and we used to get the things by just thinking, which perhaps nobody could have. By traveling, we reached the forest situated at the last corner of by traveling, we reached the forest situated at the last corner of province Bihar, India. There were huge mountains mixed with clay and stones. We stayed there in caves. Many years passed. One morning, at the time of the Hajjud, Hermit said to me, "Son, now it's my last time. I'll pass away today after Maghrib Salah. Listen, gather the Muslim from near locality, and if you don't, people will come themselves. Then you should bury me here. After giving me bath and offering my funeral, don't be worried about my coffin. Somebody would bring it. Don't be worried about digging of grave. People will come for it." I was astonished that how would they come? He said, "The tasbih, the word Muhammad Ur Rasoolullah, which I had taught you, just recite those words, everything would be done." I started weeping and clenched his feet. The hermit didn't eat or drink anything whole day, just kept on advising me and telling me about the benefits of Muhammad Ur Rasoolullah. He spent the remaining time in doing amal, zikar, prayer, and he took bath and cleaned his body. And he had told me one thing, that after burying me, you would not live here. Go back to your home, your homeland, your offspring now young. Your wife has stopped looking for you in her last age. Don't be worried about your offspring. This word, Muhammad Ur Rasoolullah, will help you at the everyday, difficult step of life. Save your life from worries, inshallah. So, Hermit performed Maghrib prayer, and he kept on performing different amal and zikr. He kept saying astaghfirullah for a long time, and he kept asking different du'as from Allah. What did he pray? I don't know. I just kept on saying Ameen after him. After that, he hugged me and tears came in his eyes. He continuously kept on reciting Kalma, Muhammad Ur Rasoolullah, and reciting istighfar. Then he started his personal commendation, Muhammad Ur Rasoolullah. And he started his personal commendation, Muhammad Ur Rasoolullah, and left his world, leaving me wept and sobbed. I tied his thumbs straighten his face and hand. I didn't have to close his eyes and tie his face, as they automatically came to their original condition and good position. His face turned towards right side itself. After a while, people started to come there. I had started my commendation, Muhammad Ur Rasoolullah. I kept reciting this after his death. I also used to recite that every time. So his grave was dug, he was given bath. There was a crowd of people on his funeral. Some people bought food for me, some bought money, and some brought clothes and gave me a beautiful horse. After burying the hermit, I sat on his grave and kept on weeping for hours. I also kept on reciting Muhammad Ur Rasoolullah. When I took my head up, there wasn't anybody. Everybody went out. But the horse and the things were there. I didn't feel like to leave, but it was the order. What could I do? I stood up from the grave, but clenched with his grave and wept. A voice was coming from my heart that obey our order and go to your family. But I used to fall down and clench the grave. This happened many times, but every time that voice used to come and say, "Go, now your duty, another duty, is going to be started." By weeping, sobbing, and sighing, I took my things and rode on the horse, and now I have reached home after the travel of many days. Just this was the story of 21 years, and I have shortened my story in this period. So my grandfather told his 21 years story to my grandmother, and in the end he said, "Don't worry about children, they will get married. You should also recite these words, Muhammad Ur Rasoolullah, every time in your days and night." And my grandmother also started reciting Muhammad Ur Rasoolullah, those words, and the same things happened. After 3 or 4 weeks of my grandfather's arrival, the proposal for marriage were started coming. All of 3 children got married in very hurry, in very short time, and my grandmother was also included to reciting Muhammad Ur Rasoolullah. So that was the story of a man who used to recite Muhammad Ur Rasoolullah every time, and Allah gave him so many benefits, so many miracles, and whatever he desired, Allah also provided him. Whatever he asked, Allah gave him. And he recited Muhammad Ur Rasoolullah in millions. He kept reciting this, and just because of that word, Allah Azza wa Jal gave him so many things in his life. So that was the story of a man. This is the second part of Kalma, Muhammad Ur Rasoolullah. We need to recite this a lot so that our faith will complete, our life will be easy, our problems will be solved, and we can also enjoy the part of life. We can also enjoy our lives. And this article was taken from Allama Lahati's article. So this is true story. Keep reciting the second part of Kalma, Muhammad Ur Rasoolullah, and keep seeing this benefit. May Allah bless all of us. May Allah accept our prayers. Ameen. Jazakallahu khaira.